Thank you. Good afternoon. We're reconvening the meeting of October 28th. We will now do a roll call vote for attendance. Jordan? Diane?
Roll call of trustees present at this reconvened meeting. Janet Couch.
Yes.
John Daly.
Yes.
Trustee Freeman.
Yes.
Trustee Reyes.
Present.
Trustee Swanson.
Yes.
Trustee Walcott.
Yes.
Chair Everman.
Present.
All trustees are present, and we do have a quorum.
We have finished the public comment section of the meeting, and we now move to approval of the minutes. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
A motion to approve the minutes. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a second. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All those aye. All those opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The third item on the agenda is board officers' reports. As there are none submitted, we move on to the next item on the agenda, unfinished business. 2.41, amendment of the board policy 1530, special meeting, second reading. Is there a motion to move this forward? You will look at the bottom of the first page, and then the second page, you will see it in red ink. Number 3, 4, 5, and 6 is the way they are changed. The first one is called to order. Adoption of agenda is number 2. Number 3 is communication. 4, comments from the public, only those related to the reason for the special meeting. 5 is the business of the special meeting as set forth in the notice, and 6 is adjournment. Is there a motion to move forward with changing that policy? Is there a motion?
I'll make the
Last
motion.
call. Did you make the motion to move forward with that? Is there a second?
Second.
We have a second. Any discussion? Yes, Trustee Freeman.
So specific to these agenda items with amendment of board policy, as we just had the election, and two of us won't be here moving forward, and these policies all affect the board moving forward. So I don't feel comfortable making policy recommendations or changes for a new board. And I think that at this point in time, I'm not in support of making policy changes because I don't feel comfortable dictating to a new board how this board will conduct its business.
Thank you very much. Are there any other comments? Seeing no other comments, roll call vote on item 2.41. Trustee Daly.
Yes.
Trustee Walcott.
Yes.
Trustee Swanson.
Yes.
Trustee Couch.
Yes.
Trustee Freeman.
No.
Trustee Reyes.
No.
And Trustee Overman is yes. The new policy has passed for 2.41. 2.42. Addition of Board Policy 1425, Committee of the Ballinger Eminent Persons Lecture Series, second reading for action. Is there a motion to move forward with this?
So moved.
Who was
Second.
that? Okay, from John. And second was from Jeff? Wendy, okay. Any discussion? Yes, Trustee Freeman.
Again, I will bring up my objection to this board policy change. It's going to be policy which, two outgoing people will not have to deal with, and I think it should be, any sort of board policy should be left for the new board to look over and see what will work for the college.
Thank you very much. Are there any other comments? Seeing none, roll call vote. Trustee Daly.
Yes.
Trustee Walcott.
Yes.
Trustee Swanson.
Yes.
Trustee Couch.
Yes.
Trustee Freeman.
No.
Trustee Reyes.
No.
Trustee Overman, yes. 2.42 has passed. 2.43, an invocation. This is addition of policy 1632. This is the second reading. Is there a motion to move forward with this?
Yes.
So we have a motion to move forward by Couch. Is there a second? Is there a second?
I'll second it.
I have a second from Trustee Daly. Any discussion? Trustee Daly. Okay. Trustee Freeman.
So we are a public university or public college. We accept federal funds. We are not a faith-based institution. we have students who run this full spectrum of Christian to Muslim to Jewish. We have atheists. We have a lot of diversity on our campus. Religiously, as we all know, this country was founded on the premise of religious freedom, freedom to practice, freedom not to, freedom to practice whatever faith you wish to. Me personally, spirituality and religion is a very personal thing. I find it very uncomfortable as part of my job on this college I feel like my spirituality is being dictated to me and what I believe. And I see that there's this idea of, the board can pick and choose different religions, different faiths, but I say it's a very personal thing to me. I don't feel that this is a necessary thing within. If people want to pray, by all means, they're welcome to pray wherever they are and however they are, but as part of an official line item of business, I can see the Pledge of Allegiance. The Pledge of Allegiance is said at many public meetings. We're all Americans. That's fine. But I think that this opens the door to potential discrimination, people feeling like that they are not heard or respected. I just don't feel like this sort of debate is necessary on our campus.
Mr. Chair?
Before you do, and John, you made the motion, so you should have gone first. But because Mr. Reyes had, I'm going to call on Mr. Reyes for a second.
Sue was the one who made the motion.
Oh, my mistake. Sorry. Thank you.
I too speak against this motion. I don't think that it's necessary for us to have an invocation, and I think that there is some question as to whether or not it violates the First Amendment. I don't want to see the college end up with a lawsuit and then have to defend this action. A moment of silence would be fine, and each individual person could say a prayer or not say a prayer, just and reflect on whatever we want to do during a moment of silence. But to make it part of the agenda, I think is wrong.
Thank you. John, did you have a comment?
Yes. I believe that the relationship with your higher power, however that is named, is an individual a matter of individual choice. And I will tell you, I'm extremely uncomfortable with the idea of having a group in which you have many people that communicate with their higher power in different matters and having a single point speaking for the organization. And I think it's particularly inappropriate if an officer of the company, of the organization does it. I made a second to bring this to the floor because I wanted a vote. I wanted to see a vote on this. I will not be supporting this. And that's where I stand.
Thank you. Wendy had her hand up just before you, Jeff. So, Wendy?
Although I love and encourage prayer, I believe also that this should be at our own personal time. So a moment of silence, like Art said, before a meeting would be great. But other than that, I believe that we should do this in our own personal time.
Thank you. Jeff?
Well, I really don't need to say anything now because everybody has echoed my feelings on this. If we want to have a moment of silence, I would be fine supporting a moment of silence. I'm a religious man, and I think it's very personal to me. And to make this on the agenda, to have an invocation, I cannot support that.
Thank you very much. Sue, we haven't heard from you. Do you have any comment on this?
No, except that I have that I believe that we should be able to do that. We should be able to have a prayer.
Thank you. So, Wendy, I think you're going to need to help me here because how this was developed was with Dr. Beverly. You were in the meeting when this came about, and she had Attorney Amber Brenner
I'll
do
just
the
say what
legal
happened.
research. Pardon?
I'll just say what happened.
Please go ahead.
So when we were in the meeting and we were speaking with Dr. Beverly, and we were setting the agenda, I had asked her, is there anything else that you want to add to the agenda? And she said, what about prayer? And I said, okay, if you want to add prayer, that's when I had made that motion that day. But that's how that came about.
And after that, she had Attorney Brenner do the research on it, and then this was developed from Attorney Brenner.
Yes,
and
back
then
then.
Attorney Brickley reviewed it. And so, just in full disclosure, how this was developed, this was not something that was brought inside from the bylaw committee, but was suggested by our former president.
Yes.
Thank you. If there's no other comment, no other question, I'll be taking a roll call vote on this. No further questions? Trustee Daly,
No.
Trustee Walcott,
No.
Trustee Swanson,
No.
Trustee Couch,
Yes.
Trustee Freeman,
No.
Trustee Reyes.
No.
And in honor of our former president who suggested we do this, I will vote yes for this. The policy has failed. Next item, 2.44. Now, as we look at this, you will see that one of the red items will be deleted. This shall be followed by an invocation, see 1632. That will not be part of this because there will not be an invocation. The thing that will be added to the order of business is the meeting shall begin with the Pledge of Allegiance, and then item number 12 on there, closed session.
So moved.
So we have a motion too. Do we have a, from John, do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second from, okay. Any discussion? Yes, Trustee Freeman.
Again, I don't believe that we should be moving board policies at the last minute right before two of us are done. I would rather have the new board have the opportunity to evaluate, look over, and see if the policies will work for them as well. And so at this point in time, I don't believe it's appropriate that we are actually moving forward policy amendments at the very last minute before a change of the board.
Thank you very much. Are there any other comments? Trustee Daly. Did you have another comment? Art, did you have one before him?
Yeah, I'm curious as to why we went the change from executive session to closed session.
It was a recommendation by our board attorney when we were going through our policies.
Okay, but they mean the same thing.
It was actually the same thing.
It's the specific language from the Open Meetings Act. It's the specific language from the Open Meetings Act. They call it a closed session as opposed to an executive session.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
John, did you have any comments?
My comment was understand that the removal of the closed session from the agenda only means that it'll be there at every time on every agenda, whether we have closed session or not. It will be on there, and to me, that's misleading to the public when they see that posted, that they see there's closed session, and especially if there's no subject matter that's associated with it, they have a legitimate concern about what's going to happen. And the way closed sessions, I believe, should be done is they should be tied to the subject matter for which that is going to be discussed in closed session as part of that part of the agenda, not as a separate standalone item every time on the agenda. So this changes nothing with regards to actual conduct of the business, all it does is say that when closed session is going to appear on the agenda, there really is going to be a closed session.
Thank you very much. Are there any other comments? Seeing none?
No, I have one. I'm looking
Just
for a little bit.
Just a moment, Art. Before Art can speak a second time, I need to make sure that no other trustee would like to speak for the first time. Seeing that none have requested that, Trustee Reyes.
I missed the last couple sentences that Trustee Daly indicated. So closed session will not appear on every agenda unless we have it?
No, the way this is being redone is that item number 12 will show
Will
a
show up
closed
every
session.
time. Okay. Okay.
Now, are there any other comments? Having seen none, I will make one comment about a board meeting when Robert Rue was president of the college, and that there was some information that had come forward that the board decided at that meeting that they needed to go into closed session. It was not on the agenda at those times, and there were two attorneys on the board at that time, Paul Godola and Jerry O'Rourke, and so they were adamant that they needed to, and they ultimately had to call a special meeting for the next day to take care of the issue that had come up that evening at the meeting. That's the history as I remember it having been at that meeting when that took place. So that's why it's executive session and then evolving into this. Any questions or comments further than that? Seeing none, a roll call vote.
Have a clarification for the motion, because the actual resolution says that it's an addition of subsection number 13, and it actually appears to be a correction to subsection 12, and that will be corrected in the minutes.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Roll call vote. Trustee Daly.
Yes.
Trustee Swanson.
Yes.
Trustee Walcott.
Yes.
Trustee Couch.
Yes?
Trustee Freeman.
No.
Trustee Reyes.
Yes.
And Trustee Overman, yes. The motion has changed, or the item has changed. 2.46, creation of energy savings account. Larry, could you go through this with us and tell us more about this for us?
Yes, I will. So I believe this was brought up at the September board meeting as a item for consideration by the board. It was brought to our attention that as we were going through and discussing different savings programs on campus and the bond spending and how we were spending, or the capital funds, the bond funds were used for capital expenditures, and some of those result in rebates and savings. Then the idea was to bring that, to set those rebates aside for future years, to earmark those for future improvements, energy savings improvements. And this would be a board designation, not a restriction of any sort. So the board could also undesignate this in the future if they so chose. The college has several different types of these designated accounts. Between the general fund, our student success that was set up, future funding, our capital reserves. So this is not uncommon. So if it's the will of the board to do this, we did compile the last 6 years, of savings from these rebates, which total $155,329.94. We could set this aside for this designation for future use, if that was the wish of the will of the board.
Thank you.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. There's one other thing, and I think when this got brought up last time, the question was the date that was put into the resolution was 2023, starting with 2023. So that would be, if we just encapsulate 2023 and 2024, that would be like $10,000. So it wouldn't be a lot.
Okay, is there a motion to move forward with this item?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Swanson. Is there a second?
Second?
We have a second from Wendy. We have, before we go further, we have a comment from,
Yeah, I just want to make sure the resolution still currently reads beginning fiscal year 2023. So if you're wanting to do the full 155,329, we need to go back to 2019. We need to modify that. So just
Mr. Swanson.
Yeah, I would make the motion with the new date of, Larry, what was that date
2019.
2019,
Okay.
with that alteration.
All right. And do we still have a second? We still have a second from Wendy. Is there any further discussion? Yes, Trustee Daly.
For the amount of money and the overhead that this type, the work level that'll be required to handle the accounting procedures, I'm not going to be supporting this. Normally, when I've seen funds moved into a revenue restricted, it's because, one, there's a legal requirement. You're doing it to repay a note of some type of debt issuance, or it's a larger amount that you want to handle. And I am concerned about the establishment of a revenue restricted fund that once the money's in there, that's the only thing that can be used for now and until this motion would be rescinded. I believe that ties the hands of future boards, and while that's something that can be done, the real question is, should it be done, and should it be done on a fund of this nature? And so I'll be voting no on this.
Thank you very much. Are there any other comments? Yes, Jeff.
Larry, when you and I talked a while back about this, John, as far as the labor intense, Larry, you had told me that it was no big deal as far as the labor to create another account, so to speak. Is you still stand by that?
I would and I think also when we talked, what I had mentioned is that while I believe these designations of funds strategically can be good for the college, I was just cautioning against setting up many of these different funds as John is speaking to. So the labor, setting this aside, accounting for it, the hardest part's already been done. We had to go back and find out what the rebates were. So we did that work already to get that. The designation will be another fund within the audit report, and it will be just like any other designation that the maintenance of it will not be, it won't be extreme, or it won't be very time consuming, no. But again, I just caution these designations, as John is saying, is that we have to be, or the board needs to consider to be strategic in doing that instead of setting every little fund up that comes in.
Thank you very much. Are there any other comments? Seeing none. Wendy, you and Jeff were talking. Did you need anything? Okay. Roll call vote. Trustee Daly.
No.
Trustee Alcott.
No.
Trustee Swanson.
Yes.
Trustee Couch.
Yes.
Trustee Reyes.
No.
Trustee Freeman.
No.
And Trustee Everman, yes. The motion fails for setting up an energy plant. What's that? I can't hear either one.
Amended motion, she just wants to say amended.
That was amended motion. Okay, so that would be the amended motion. Okay. So now we have to vote on the amended motion.
We just voted on the amended motion.
Okay, so now the major motion.
Yes.
Okay, so now the major motion to be voted on, that would be the fiscal year of 2023. Roll call vote. Trustee Daly?
Yes. I'm sorry, no.
Trustee Walcott?
No.
Trustee Swanson?
Yes.
Trustee Couch?
Yes.
Trustee Freeman?
No.
Trustee Reyes?
No.
Trustee Everman, yes. The energy savings account has failed. New business, 2.47, Treasurer's Report. Larry?
Okay, thank you. So this is the September Treasurer's Report, not October. So total expenditures are about 19.8 million, 7.4 out of the general fund and 12.4 out of all other funds. Total revenues are 29.9 million in September. Credit tuition is up 730,000. Non-credit is down 150, but combined it's up 588,000. State aid begins in October. Local property taxes are 7.7 million. Expenditures are about the same as in wages, salaries and wages as was last year. The fringes are slightly higher. And the same trends continue in the contracted services, utilities and insurance, materials and supplies and operations since the beginning of the year. Spending in the other funds totaled 12.4 million. 636,000 was capital related. The remaining 11.8 million was out of the agency auxiliary scholarships and grants. On the balance sheet side, total assets are at 32.8 million versus 32.3 million the prior year. Liabilities 7.8 versus 6.4. And that is the highlights of the Treasurer's Report for September.
Thank you very much, Larry. Is there a motion to receive the Treasurer's Report?
So moved.
Support.
We have a motion and we have support. Is there any further comment or question on it?
I have a question.
Yes.
I'm looking at your page 940, and you're showing on liabilities and net assets. We're showing in net assets an undersected, is that in parents, so it's a deficit, right? Am I reading that correctly?
No, I'm sorry. I didn't hear the end of your question.
Okay, the question is the net assets on page 940 shows as in parents of 906,455, and that's in comparison to, any ideas what that's a deficit, right? A difference, a negative difference.
Yeah, the change in the net assets would be a change of 906,435. That is a combination of many different things. Timing of revenues and expenses from this year to last year, the recognition of and how we're receiving the tax collections from the prior year. So all those different things can impact that from month to month.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions regarding the Treasurer's Report?
Move to accept.
I think we have that from Freeman.
Oh,
and
did you? I'm
Reyes.
sorry.
So, are there any other questions, concerns? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Those opposed, nay. There's no noes. Passes unanimously. Item 2.48, asbestos removal.
So I believe Rod is here. Yeah, thank you, Rod. He'll go through our current contract and then the bid and our recommended award.
Chair.
Welcome.
Board. So our current asbestos contract has come to an end, and we rebid the contract through purchasing. We had 8 companies come through with their pricing. Our lowest company was that came through as National, which is who we currently are using. It was about a 3.5% increase of what the previous bill was. Due to that, the college is making a recommendation to accept National's bid. I'll take any questions.
Are there any questions, trustees? Jeff, you didn't have your microphone on.
I don't have any questions.
Okay.
No.
So do we have a motion to accept item 2.48,
So
with
moved.
the national environment. Okay, we have
Second.
that, and we have a second. Any further discussion? Saying none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed, nay. Item 2.48 passed. Thank you. I can't hear.
It was Art who made the first one and I made the second.
Item 2.49 is the first reading. And with this one, you can see that there shall be followed by an invocation. That will be removed from that. And you'll also see that item number 4, consent agenda, that we add that to the agenda. So in case we'd like to use that. Second page, page 944, board-generated ideas, president's report, board comments, closed session, and agenda. No action is needed for that at this time. 2.50. This is regard to consent agenda. 1633. Is there any questions about this item? Yes, Trustee Daly.
More of a comment than a question, that this doesn't change all this does is change the division of time that the board can spend on items that require more research, more study. Consent agenda is identified in advance and can be changed through a change of the agenda. The advantage to it is that we get motions before us that need to be passed by the board. It may be required by law to be passed by the board, but they don't necessarily require the in-depth
Trustee Daly?
discussion. Yes.
Please direct your comments to the chair.
Okay. That means I have to look at you too?
Pardon?
I was speaking through the microphone, so I thought that covered directing it to the chair. I didn't realize I had to look at you as well during the entire time.
Yes.
That's quite a load.
This item was brought forward because at one of our last meetings, Lynetta Cody brought forth a family that needed to be recognized for the funds that they had given to the college. Trustee Daly, you had put that item on the consent agenda, and we did not give that family the due that they were honored for coming in and contributing, and the individuals that they brought with them. So you will see on this, it says, agenda items for which specific members of the public have been expressly invited to attend the meeting in connection with the agenda item, whether it be for a special presentation, honor, or accolade, or for whatever reason, shall not be placed on a consent agenda. Any other comments about 1633? Saying none. Item 2.51. Board-generated ideas. Any questions regarding that one?
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Trustee Freeman.
So I'm looking right at you, so I'm directing my comments through the chair. I have never been on a board, and I've served on many boards, that this is a traditional agenda item. Typically, board-generated ideas come through the committee structure. We have not had really robust attendance at our committee meetings, so I wonder why this is even a thing. This is your pet project, your vanity project within our agenda that never really did anything.
Personal attacks
There was never,
are
I
not
never really,
appropriate at the meeting,
excuse me,
Mr. Freeman.
I have the floor and I'm just
Personal
giving you,
attacks
it's
are
not
not
personal
appropriate.
attacks, no, it just, nothing has ever happened with it. It's never really been used in the way that I believe you intended. So I just think that again, this is another thing that, why are we putting something in place that a future board may not necessarily need, want, or use?
Thank you very much, Trustee Freeman. Are there any questions or concerns regarding this? Trustee Daley?
I have the same concern that the board already has a process by which items can be brought to us for consideration. When Trustee Couch surfaced the issue concerning the status of elevators, to me that was an excellent example of how something can come to the board and the board decides to take action on it. I don't believe that we should have a process that any idea that we suggest just because we suggest it doesn't necessarily mean it's that great. It needs to stand the test of time and the test of having other people look at it, particularly staff and administration that are familiar with the finances, with the legal nuances of the idea. And certainly if we did something like this, it should be something that is never, that would, if it was surfaced there, then the only thing it does is move to be treated like a regular resolution and be studied by the administration and give us a report back on whether it's satisfactory or even doable.
Thank you very much. There's no action needed to be taken on this item today. We now need to move to announcements. The only announcement that we have at this time is November 22nd at 7:30 p.m. The Mott College Bears will take on the Rochester JV team. Item number 7 on our agenda will be adjournment. The meeting is now adjourned. Thank you very much.
We have a whole second page.
So what had happened at the previous meeting when we convened, we will have Diane Cotter explain how that happened because the agenda that you see before you was not approved by the members of the board that were there at that time. So we fall back to Robert's Rules of Order agenda. That's why you seem to be scrambling around all over the place with the agenda today to keep up with me. That's a Robert Rules of Order
And that's
agenda.
not true. I wasn't scrambling around. I followed you very clear.
Okay. Is there any other information you need to know? Because the meeting is
You
now
just said
adjourned.
no personal attacks, and look what you just did to me, Andy. I
The
have followed
meeting's
this to a
adjourned.
T. It
Thank you
doesn't
very
matter.
much.
You shouldn't have said that.
The agenda meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much.